Hello everyone and welcome to another Stellaris video. Today I'm going to be ranking every single Ascension perk based on two things, their meta viability and how fun and useful they are to use in a single player playthrough. And of course this is all going to be my opinions, and I'm also going to talk about each one and why I think they are so strong or so weak or kind of in the middle. So we're just going to go in order, and we're going to start off with Archeo Engineers. Archeo Engineers is an interesting Ascension perk, and I would say it's an A tier one because it gives you a couple good things. First of all, it gives you a reliable access to minor artifacts via the Archeo Study building, and I think this is relatively important because the Archeo weapons are actually quite strong in Stellaris, such as the nano missiles are quite good, and there's also just a lot of weapons that are slightly better than the default variant. And when you have a reliable source of minor artifacts, which you definitely will with Archeo Engineers now, it is quite strong. And also, in addition, for Gestalt Empires, you can often boost the efficiency of your coordinator jobs with a decision on your planet that requires minor artifacts, and that is another strength of Archeo Engineers. So, Arcology projects straight in the S tier. You want this in basically every single build. And the same thing goes for Machine and Hive Worlds when we get there. Cosmogenesis straight into the S tier. Or no, is this Cosmogenesis? No, this is Menacing thing. And I would say, yeah, this is a B tier perk. While it is quite strong, I think it's kind of outclassed by most of the other Crisis Paths and Behemoth Fury. I've definitely seen some insane things with Behemoth Fury. I think it is incredibly like powerful when combined with bioships or food-based economy builds. I haven't personally played it too many times, but this is just from what I've seen in multiplayer builds, and it's definitely quite strong. I would say Colossus, like crazily enough, is probably C tier. In multiplayer games, you rarely get to the point where Colossuses are necessary. And even if you do, using an entire Ascension perk for something that can be accomplished by like a stack of 10,000 armies or something is not too significant. And I would generally say I only use this for really niche, funny things like turning worlds into ocean worlds or something like that. Not that useful. Is this Imperial Prerogative? I wish they had names. Yeah, I believe this is Imperial Prerogative, and there's two Imperial Prerogatives? Okay, wait, hold up. My apologies. This is Imperial Prerogative, and this yellow one is Consecrate Worlds. Consecrate Worlds is a rarely used spiritualist Ascension perk, and this is actually very useful for Unity rushes, but using 3 planets to mildly increase the efficiency of your Unity rush is a pretty weak thing these days, as there's so many sources of Unity in the early game, especially for biological empires, which are spiritualist, that I would say Consecrated Worlds would fall somewhere between B and C. If you're playing on a massive galaxy with tons of stars, it can actually be pretty strong, or tons of planets. Maybe could fall into the B tier, but otherwise, we're going to put this in the C tier. Cosmogenesis is probably my favorite Ascension perk in the entire game. I love the Fallen Empire buildings, I love the Fallen Empire ships, and I take this in basically every single player playthrough. I love it. So straight to the S tier for Cosmogenesis. Imperial Prerogative is extremely underrated, especially for Gestalt and Machine builds, as there aren't actually so many Ascension perks that you need to take these days. So having an entire Ascension perk just for minus 50% empire size from planets is not even a bad thing. I don't think it's too big of a waste. So I'm going to put it all the way up in the C tier, which is a bit of a hot take. Defender of the Galaxy is the next Ascension perk here, and I would say this has some major strength and major weaknesses. The major strength of this is it is extremely good when fighting high difficulty crises, like 25x and that kind of thing, or even higher. However, it loses a lot of value in multiplayer, so I can't put it in the S tier, and I'll put it in the A tier as you won't take this in every single playthrough, and you'll only take it for high difficulty crisis runs, except it's extremely important in those high crisis runs as the plus 50% damage is just an insane amount. And Toxic Worlds, Toxic or like this is called detox, but I'd say detox is pretty F tier. I mean, in your entire empire, you might have two toxic worlds. And in general, if you need more planets in the late game, you can either build habitats, megastructures, or just go ahead and invade your neighbors. Um, and using an entire Ascension perk at the time of the game where the couple planets from detox would be useful is just too big of a waste. There's too many better things that you could be taking instead. Do keep in mind that if you take one Ascension perk, it's at the cost of not taking another one, which is why I would say, yeah, don't look at the objective value of it because it's still good, right? Getting an extra planet or two is nice, except when you're comparing that to losing something else on this list, it could be a lot more impactful. Enigmatic Engineering at times was one of my favorite Ascension perks, but I think it has to fall down into the C tier now. Essentially, what it used to do is it allowed you to roll Fallen Empire buildings without Cosmogenesis, but it's since been nerfed to only be able to roll 3 different Fallen Empire buildings. So this is anywhere from C to F tier now. I would still say it's C tier because it allows you to get some Fallen Empire buildings, which can be very impactful on certain builds. So it's not useless, but it's definitely not that strong. And next we have an extremely good Ascension perk, and I don't know whether to go the highest in A tier or the lowest in S, as you're not going to pick this every game, as Eternal Vigilance is situational, but in the situation where you need it, it's insane. Essentially, in case you don't know what this does, is it'll fill up half the defense platform capacity of every starbase you have, absolutely for free. And all you have to do is turn on one free decision in your government to activate it and have the unyielding tradition tree. And I think we're going to go bottom of S. If you want to play turtle-based stall builds or something with sovereign guardianship, and you just want to build defense platforms and survive without building ships, and have those defense platforms be built for free, Eternal Vigilance is basically a must, and this makes turtle builds actually extremely good and extremely viable. Next thing is Biomorphosis. Biomorphosis is probably near the top of S tier for me. Um, this is one of the most strongest general Ascension perks, and it has the added bonus of being a way to turn regular biological empires into actually competitive forces in the game, as basically any other Ascension perk, whether it be Synthetic, which is too slow for bioempires, or Cybernetic, which is too weak for bioempires, and Psionics, which leaves bioempires with no pop growth, are too weak, and Biomorphosis basically single-handedly saves individualist biological empires. So I'm going to put this in the S tier. If you want to break down also, I would say Purity and Cloning are S, where Mutation is probably top of A. And yeah, Executive Vigor is extremely underrated. I would put it anywhere between the high B to low A tier. Um, People seem to think it's terrible, but it actually gives plus 15% council agenda speed, which can almost be read as like, I don't know, like plus 10% leader EXP or something like that, because statecraft can be one of the main ways to farm leader XP. And in addition to that, giving 100 edict cap is extremely useful for the early games of many empires, even just stalled ones, where you just need that 100 edict cap to maintain all 3 basic resource subsidies, or all the basic resource subsidies you need. And I would say it's actually quite strong, although it does get weaker as the game goes on. Well, Galactic Contender is not the strongest option. I don't know whether to put it at the top of F tier or at the bottom of C tier. I literally had to look up what this is because I take it so rarely. Um, it can definitely be useful. Back when in the Montu tournament settings, I would often take this to cheese out extra points just from getting extra Galactic Council score, but its benefit of giving plus 20% diplomatic weight. It also does give plus 33 damage to Fallen Empires and Awakened Empires, but Fallen Empires are not that strong in the first place when compared to true late game Empire builds, so I would put this at the bottom of C tier or the top of F. Really up to you. Galactic Force Projection straight to S tier. This is so important for multiplayer. It basically automatically vaults itself up to S, and in single player, I'll likely take it anyway, as it gives plus 100 to your fleet size, and having less fleets in the galaxy can help with lag issues, which is the true late game crisis, right? So this is taken in basically every single multiplayer build that aims to fight, and also most single player runs to reduce lag. And I think that's ultimately deserving of the S tier placement. Um, what's next is Megastructure. So is this Galactic Wonders or Megastructures in the first place? Let me quickly check. Okay, so this is Galactic Wonders. And my hot take is that Galactic Wonders is actually an extremely overrated and not necessary. I want to put it at the top of C tier, which is something absolutely insane to say and will probably make a lot of people unhappy. But I rarely ever take Galactic Wonders these days in Stellaris for the following reasons. Is the biggest strength of Galactic Wonders is, of course, the Dyson Sphere, the mineral Dyson Sphere, what's it called? The matter decompressor, and the ring world, right? The ring world is no longer necessary because you can now make Accumulinopolises or machine worlds or hive worlds, which give you as many researcher jobs as you need, which was the main strength of ring worlds before, or trader jobs, or whatever you want to do with your ring worlds. And then your planets, thanks to support districts, can basically be their own little Dyson spheres and matter decompressors. You can easily get a single planet, like a size 20 planet, making 6 to 7,000 energy credits in the late game. Who needs a Dyson sphere? Same with minerals and the matter decompressor. So this is going to fall all the way down to C tier. I would say it'd only be useful for really bad builds with no pops. But if you have no pops, how are you going to find megastructures in the first place? Um, so Hive World, straight to S tier, no explanation needed. Basically, whether you're a Hive, Machine, or Biological, these are absolutely amazing. And in addition, I would say Accumulinopolises would definitely be at the bottom of the rankings of how powerful these worlds are, and probably Machine Worlds first. Or maybe Hive Worlds, it's hard to say. But essentially, both of these world types give you assembly jobs, which can massively boost the amount of pop assembly you get throughout your empire. And even though they don't convert like district space into assembly speed very efficiently, it is better than anything Accumulinopolis gets, and these can be built at the same time as other buildings on the planet where the Accumulinopolis cannot. Almost to the point where I would drop these down to S tier, um, A tier, but I think it's too good for that anyway, so we'll just put it at the bottom. And I will try to order these in the order I think that it is appropriate. Hydrocentric, top of C tier probably. It's very fun for some niche builds where you want to go super tall or build a super large planet, but it's more fun than practical, to be honest. However, it is decent in the fact that planets and their basic resource capacity is now non-linearly scaling with planet size, aka a planet that's twice as large produces 4 times the amount of resources. So, expanding your planet a little bit with hydrocentric can actually be more impactful than just the 3 districts I might suggest. So, do keep that in mind. I'm not going to lie, I had to look up what this one is. It apparently is Interstellar Dominion. What it does is it gives minus 20% to claim cost. It gives minus 50% to empire size from systems. This is pretty useless. Unless you want to go like super wide, super quickly, start for star-based influence cost, it can be kind of useful. But generally, playing as wide as you would need to make this useful is not easily possible, in the sense that like you'll just have to spend so much of your resources expanding instead of scaling. It's generally not worth it. We're gonna put this at the bottom of C tier. I'm not sure it deserves to go in the F tier, so there it is. Lord of War is something that is funny, and I've definitely gotten punked by it a few times. Essentially, what this does is it gives you mercenary enclave capacity, and you can then use these mercenary enclaves to attack your neighbors and that kind of thing. It had its moments where it was quite strong, and could definitely do like some funny things. I've definitely lost to somebody using mercenary fleets before. Um, but I would say generally the scaling is so fast in 4.0 with unity rushes and that kind of thing. These mercenary fleets are going to get owned by the average multiplayer year 30 fleets, although it could be pretty fun in single player to troll other people with and some of the AIs. So you could either put it at the bottom of B or the top of C. We'll probably put it near the top of C, as that's where I think it belongs. This is the Megastructure build capacity and build speed perk. I forget what it's called. I think it's pretty good. I think it's better than Galactic Wonders, to be honest. And we're going to put it at the bottom of B. And the reason is some of the basic megastructures, like the Mega Shipyard, the Sentry Array, they're all still very useful. The Catapult, like, there's a lot of funny things you can do. And they're honestly more important than the Galactic Wonders these days, so I would put this at the bottom of B. I'd say none of the Meg structures are that important anymore. Like, you don't need a science that Megastructure, whatever it's called. But the Mega Shipyard is basically mandatory in difficult crisis runs in order to build and replenish ships fast enough. So I would probably put this like at B tier. Obviously, you don't need this Ascension perk to actually build those megastructures, but having a build capacity of 2 instead of the base of 1 can be really, really nice. Mastery of Nature is amazing. Oftentimes, in the first 3 Ascension perks, you have to take a dead perk in the sense that you have to take a perk that you don't really need, but you need to take one. So as long as it does something for your empire, you're okay with that. And Mastery of Nature is definitely one of those, as you can take this as your first Ascension perk, you can take it as your uh, second Ascension perk, just the ones you take before you ascend. And I would say it's quite useful, giving +2 districts to your planets. As before, as I mentioned, the nonlinear scaling of basic resource planets makes this pretty good. And in addition, blocker clear speed and cost can be pretty useful for things like Ring World and Relic World and that kind of thing. So yeah, probably bottom of B tier is where I'd put this. And psionics, well, unfortunately, psionics I would say has to go into the B tier. So this is the biological psionics, and I'd say biological psionics are very fun, but still extremely weak. They don't produce enough pops to be viable, and the machine psionics, which unfortunately I don't have an updated graphic for that, would probably go up into the A tier, except you can only take it as the 4th Ascension perk, so then machine psionics would also drop back down to at best B, as ascending at your 4th Ascension perk is extremely late and expensive. Um, so yeah, unfortunately, psionics B tier. You could argue even C tier or like lower in the B tier, but it's still an Ascension perk, so why not? Um, so this is Necromancy. I think this is only available for machines, maybe, and I like Necromancy not because of the passive effects it provides, allowing you to turn biological species into cyborg zombies, but literally for the large slot, XL slot, and T slot weapon damage. And for that alone, I'd probably put it B, top of B tier, maybe bottom of A tier. It's extremely good just for that purpose. 15% weapons damage is no joke. And having the extra benefit of being able to do some funny stuff is just an added bonus. At one point in the game, Nihilistic Acquisition, which allows you to basically scoop up pops from space and just steal people's pops by bombardment, was one of my favorite things in the entire game in combination with Necrophage. But I would say this is pretty weak. There are so many ways to claim systems. You can, use other Ascension perks like to get Total War goals, like either through, Behemoth Fury, uh, what's it called, like Nemesis or Cosmogenesis even. They all give you Total War goals that you can use to get systems for free, which makes it so that you really don't need to bombard planets to get pops. In the early game, you can just claim systems. So I want to put this in the F tier, but it's kind of too fun for that. So we'll put it at the bottom of C tier, as I've certainly had a lot of fun bombarding pops into my empire. So yeah, C tier, I guess. One Vision is something that falls off really hard. It is basically only used in hard Ascension rushes, where you want to rush Ascension as much as possible. 10% Unity is nice, but it's an additive bonus. So once you have like multiple bonuses to your Unity, it doesn't even give you plus 10% of your actual Unity. So I'll put it at the bottom of B. However, it is taken in a lot of runs. You just don't expect it to be very useful after Ascension, but getting Ascension almost 10% earlier can be quite useful sometimes. So bottom of B tier. Is this universal transactions? Let me check. Okay, it turns out this is Grasp the Void. I literally didn't realize what this was, so you can imagine where I think this belongs. I think this belongs in the F tier. There are funny things you can do with starbase capacity, like you can make an economy out of starbases, except it's so bad and you can get starbase capacity from techs so quickly these days as well, or from making more systems. I think any build that uses this is probably pretty funny, but not very good. Um, Shared Destiny, here's another one where I had to look up what it is because I never click it. And yep, I believe that this is F tier. It gives +2 envoys, +1 subjects exempt from divided patronage, and -20% subject conversion time. I would say there was a day where subject spam or vassal spam was the best way to play Stellaris and the fastest way to scale in the mid game, vassalizing Grand Admiral AIs. Except nowadays, even vassalizing Grand Admiral AIs is pretty weak compared to just taking their systems for yourself or scaling internally. Um, as even if you take massive amounts of taxes from Grand Admiral AIs, they do not scale very well. They're still very weak and don't give you that many resources, as your own Ascension Rush builds are going to be so much more efficient than them. So we're going to put this in the F tier. You don't need envoys, very like unless you're doing something funny and diplomatic gameplay style. You don't really need that many envoys. You definitely don't need subjects from divided patronage, as you can just keep um, vassals happy through many other methods. So yeah, down in the F tier. Synthetic, S tier. Honestly, it could be considered better than Biomorphosis. I would say it's only weaker because, you know what? I think it's still stronger than Biomorphosis. Mostly because Virtual still exists. My hot take is that Virtual is not even the best Ascension perk, except for the reason that most people don't use it for it. But if you take Virtual and never complete the tradition and leave one spot blank, you can still have access to civilians and Virtual at the same time. And essentially what that does is you can break the game with extremely high pop assembly numbers and get millions and millions of civilians that give you like insane bonuses to your pop assembly speed, and that is basically carrying Virtual. If you play Virtual regularly and just complete the tradition, is extremely strong, but you kind of lack two things. You don't have civilians and you can't go too wide. Like you're capped out at like a 5 or 6 planet max before you start to lose efficiency. And yes, theoretically, you can go infinite planets wide, but that's just not fun to manage that. So, in the way most people play Virtual, which is, 5 or 6 planets maximum, um, you don't really have enough planets to max out your naval capacity, alloy production, technology, um, and basic resources. So, you kind of get stuck. And you don't have civilians, and you can't overstack. So, you kind of have to rely on the synaptic lathe from Cosmogenesis in order to really scale into the ultra late game, which is like 50,000 plus tech kind of territory. And that is something that Biomorphosis can easily do. That is something that Modularity or even Nanites can easily do. I would definitely say Nanites kind of drags it down. Nanites was extremely broken for a couple patches, and then they nerfed the Nanite research building. So um, ultimately, I'd have it lower. Yeah, I don't like Virtual will always have year 30 to like 60-ish uncontested in terms of how powerful it is in that time frame. Like you can easily have, 500,000 fleet stacks by like year 30 when you play Virtual, and that is not something that can be matched by any other build here. So maybe it's still got to be S tier. Um, and then we have cybernetics. Oh no, this is synthetics, right? So this is when you're biological, and then you try to ascend into synthetics. I would put this as probably bottom of A tier. The reason why it's not as strong is you simply need to do two very difficult researches, which is you need to research drones, no, not drones, sorry, android technology, and then was it droids, right? You need to research droids and then synthetics before you can actually synthetically ascend. Very expensive, and it slows you down to the point where even if you did a Unity rush, you probably won't have this until like year 45 if you played really well, and it could be even later if you played worse. And I've definitely had some runs where I tried to play for this and ended up way too late for it to be good. So top of B tier, bottom of A, um, is probably where this deserves to go. Tech Ascendancy. My hot take is Tech Ascendancy is not that good. Um, I would rate it somewhere in this territory. Definitely not S. And the reason is Tech Ascendancy no longer gives a tech bonus, like research speed bonus. It only gives higher access to rare technologies and the ability to tailor your technologies, which is nice. it's definitely helped me find some technologies that are annoying to find sometimes. But as you go into the late game, the bonuses from it get smaller and smaller, and the only reason I take Tech Ascendancy on most builds is so that my Cosmogenesis techs don't roll things that destroy my Empire. That is basically it. It gives you access to the safe research tech option, um, which is like not its main purpose. So, yeah, if you're only using it for its main purposes, in the sense of looking for specific technologies, it's not the most impactful these days, as it gets outscaled really quickly. I believe this is cybernetics. Cybernetics are kind of mid. I wouldn't say that the worst Ascension path, mostly because they're carried by the one cybernetic creed build, which is quite good. But basically, every single other, like, if you ascend to synthetics, it's almost like playing with no ascension, to be honest. From anything other than synthetic creed, like, it's so weak. The pop growth is not amazing. The pop efficiency is not amazing. It's like maybe like plus 30% in both of those categories, whereas psionic is like at least 2x pop efficiency. Biomorphosis is like plus 70, 80% pop efficiency and like 4 times the pop assembly. Synthetic is like kind of a similar boat where it's like plus, I don't know, 60, 70% assembly plus 60 to 70% pop efficiency, with modularity, and virtual is, well, virtual. And then nanites are nanites. They're really slow, but they do scale up. Although that tech nerf to them really did hurt. So I don't know. Is synthetic still the strongest? This is so hard to say. Anyhow, this is, in my opinion, one of the more underrated things. Transcendent learning plus 25% leader EXP. There are so few sources of leader EXP in the game these days that this can be quite impactful. I take it on quite a lot of builds that want to focus on leader, and also the extra leader capacity for scientists is nice because I often run out of leader capacity for scientists for like science ships and stuff in the early game. But it kind of gets way weaker in late game, as once your first leaders start to get to level 8 or 9 via um, other methods, and you get great researcher or um, great educator, which can replace the leader bonus speed, and this just generally gets weaker as the game goes on. So middle of B tier feels fair to me. Gaia Worlds, an extra source of worlds as usual, has lost a lot of value. It used to be one of my favorites in the entire game. Now I would say it's just kind of mid. Um, I could still imagine taking it on some. I can't imagine taking this on any kind of empire. You'd have to be playing a biological psionic empire for this to be good. Maybe I don't know, a cybernetic empire. Like, biomorphosis gives you such huge bonuses to habitability. Like, who needs Gaia worlds? You just use whatever kind of worlds you have. It's not too important. So yeah, unfortunately, biomorphosis has kind of made this Gaia world terraforming tech just kind of worthless. Um, yeah, usually you can just get away with whatever your main species habitability is, and the extra bonuses from Gaia worlds are just not worth it. And I believe this is universal transactions. I don't even remember what it does. I also rarely take this. Minus 15% branch office. Commercial packs are free. I mean, that's kind of useful. I can't remember the last time I've played a build that required so many branch offices that the commercial pack upkeep became a problem. Um, I would say this is generally quite weak because if you're playing in multiplayer where you're trying to get tons of branch offices, it's usually not as efficient as having one player who's specifically trade focused and then focusing on getting branch offices on them instead of going wide and trying to put a branch office on every empire, as putting a branch office on a non-trade empire is really not that efficient. You don't get that much from it. So um, yeah, for like no influence upkeep for commercial packs is generally not that impactful. Also, as you scale into late game, there's so many sources of influence. It's just not that good. Voidborn, this is really good. I don't know if it's A tier, maybe bottom of A tier, and I would say it fits around here because in certain circumstances you don't have enough planets. It's one of the only ways to scale up vertically. Also, for certain very powerful builds like Knights of the Toxic God or just any Void Dweller start, it's obviously, you don't need this when you have Void Dweller start, but uh, yeah, like I definitely don't take this every game, so honestly, B tier is probably more fair. I don't know where in B tier, maybe near the top of B tier. Um, as whenever you have like 6 or 7 plus regular planets, I would almost never take this perk. But if you got stuck on like 3 planets or something, and you just needed more things to build on, it can kind of bail out a run. Um, this completely worthless. I've never even thought about taking this. I'm sure there are some funny things you could do with it. Let me even go read what it actually does exactly. Galactic weather control, advanced storm manipulation technology. Well, yeah, I'm sure some people can think of funny ways to use this to troll people or get some nice bonuses for yourself. Um, However, like a lot of those builds are just super gimmicky, and anything that used a Unity Rush into something strong would be infinitely more reliable. And if you do know something that uses this to great effect, please let me know, as I could be overlooking something that is actually decent, but I don't think it's strong. I don't think I've seen anyone take it for ages, and I definitely have not taken it myself in a very, very long time. Um, Xenocompatibility is a funny one. It was super broken for a patch or two, and then it was nerfed to the ground, but it's still not terrible. If you're playing a biological based build, it can kind of bail out your pop assembly speed, especially when combined with something like Genesis Architects, where you get tons of different pre-FTL species that you can uplift, and get a lot of species to maximize your biological pop growth bonuses. This is just the problem with the game, though, is if you're biomorphosis, you don't need any biopop growth bonuses. You have enough. If you are um, psionic, it could be pretty good. I guess it could be pretty good with cybernetic. But it also forces you to be Xenophile, which kind of sucks, as Xenophile is not the most useful in today's Stellaris, as it also stops you from evading pre-FTLs. So it's like, I don't know where exactly it fits, but somewhere in this zone, it definitely has its uses. Probably bottom of B tier, to be honest. I don't think it belongs with these super hyper niche. Yeah, I think this is a bit too controversial. Maybe I'll move this to the top of C tier. Um, but yeah, I genuinely do not believe that megastructures are good. I think they need a huge buff if anyone is to start to take megastructures seriously. And yeah, I guess that's it. If you would like me to rank something else in the future, like Ascension perks, or not, this is Ascension perks. What am I talking about? Like Ascension paths or origins, please let me know. Maybe civics. If I do civics, I would have to do Gestalt Hive, Gestalt machine and biological separately, and I would have to play a lot more Gestalt for me to feel confident with making a video about that. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I definitely enjoyed making it. Different kind of Stellaris content than usual. If you guys have any build ideas, please let me know, as I'm currently struggling to find something that feels significantly different from another video that I've already made. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.